Hello and welcome to Game Boys.
It's me, Digibro, with
Hippocrit on the Hippocrit channel at last. This is a new show, which is basically the same as all the other shows I do, where it's about video games.
Yeah, but this time it's about specifically a franchise, or I guess just a duology of PlayStation 2 classics that neither of us ever got around to.
Yeah, we played Katamari 1 and We Love Katamari, which is the second one. And I had never played them before, and this is basically a comparison video between the two, because
we just did them both in like one sitting apiece almost.
Yeah.
So I have, I mostly was watching you play, but I have played a bit of the first game, so I understand the controls, but I think Katamari is a game you can, by and large, understand the appeal by looking at it and listening to it. I think the...
I've seen it on Game Grumps, and that's really the only place I've seen it before this. But playing it with my hands and fingers, you get better a sense of like exactly why it's so satisfying.
Yeah. Why it's fun as a game, as opposed to just... Because when you look at it, it's the aesthetic immediately will grab you. I don't think anyone would disagree that Katamari Damacy has a fucking phenomenal aesthetic.
Yeah.
The artwork is bright and poppy and beautiful. The music is really great. Both games have totally out there soundtracks full of like different music artists. It's like full songs. None of it is just background music or game BGM. It's all like actual artists performing songs.
One thing I noticed was
not to say that they're not artists.
In at least the second game is that really like great songs were just happening on regular levels. There was no like normal baby starting zone that wasn't that interesting and then it escalates. It's just constantly really good all the way through. Oh yeah.
The music is one of the highlights, and I think there are a lot of people who love Katamari. Just the music and visuals alone are enough, like, for a lot of people to make it one of their favorite games, just because no other game quite looks like it, or feels like it, or sounds like it. A lot of other games have their own, eclecticism, but this one just goes so far into its own direction that, nothing else could be comparable.
Yeah.
Unless they were just copying it,
And,
Victor, we're fucking filming over here. Stop whistling.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, Katamari 1 is... the discussion between the two games is like people generally accept that We Love Katamari is the better one.
Yes.
In basically every way, and I would agree. Not that the first game is bad, but it's like... It's what were you saying? A proof of concept? Like they have this strange, like, a crazy idea that they want to make into a game. Whoever made it, I don't know. Well, yeah, but like the guy who it seems like it's like a brainchild of somebody specifically.
It could be. I don't know if this was more of one person or a team, because there's not exactly a name plastered all over it or anything.
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
But like a small team. Like it wouldn't be like a committee wouldn't come up with something.
It certainly
like this.
would have been like people, like some smaller group within the company, and they obviously were not given like the powerhouse budget of a mainstream title. Not only because, and I don't say that because of the low poly graphics or anything like that. The game looks phenomenal, and I don't think that they made it look that way out of just budgetary limitations. It's obviously an artistic choice, but the first game's extremely limited amount of levels and like actual shit to do gives the impression that it was only after they had proven the success of the concept with that game that they were able to expand on it dramatically with the second one.
Yeah. Sound.
People flushing toilets, dog.
This sucks, dude. What was I saying? What was I gonna say? There was something about the first game. I'll cut the whole video.
We love Game Boys!
It's your fault, Nate. You flushed the toilet, didn't you?
No, that's me.
No.
No.
Never mind. Fuck you still, though. That lettuce was disgusting.
Lettuce is good. Eat your fucking greens.
Can I be in this video?
Oh,
sure.
You can barely see him, but there he is.
It's me and the G. Goodbye. No, wait, I'm coming back.
I cut myself shaving, but there's a new meme on the scene. Here's the new meme. You've got to eat your greens. You've got to
Get the fuck out of
No,
here.
me and Victor were having a great time with this meme. I swear, it's a good one.
No.
That's the new meme. Hashtag you've got to eat your greens. Hashtag Zelda fan 2018.
Shut up, bitch. We're talking about Katamari. We're talking about moving balls to get big.
Do you actually want to be in this?
You're
got to eat
Your greens.
No.
got to eat your greens.
You've got to eat. You've got to eat. You've got to eat your greens. Where are the greens?
All right. Katamari 1, yeah, it was limited in like the level design. Every level I think is like just the same level.
Yeah,
But
it seemed that way.
I mean, here's the thing about it is that it's one level, and every level you do, you get, you start very, very small, and then as you grow, you get to a point, and then the next level you start a little bigger, and you grow even more, and then it gets to a point where you're so big that you're scooping up the entire world, and that is like a really cool. Like snowballing of the concept.
Yeah.
In as much as the gameplay is like that, it's like you're getting small and you're getting bigger, but you're getting bigger faster the more you go.
Yeah, one of
Until
the
it
most
gets to the-
exciting parts is when as you get larger, and it stops being that you have to struggle to find things small enough to pick up, and that you can't even turn your fucking head without scooping something up.
Yeah, it's the challenge after you get to a certain size is like not how to get big enough to get things, but how do I fucking turn? I'm so fucking big. I'm too fat. I can't move. And that's like the appeal of the first game, and it is like a smaller scale, but it is a very linear experience that sort of, if you've never heard of Katamari, that would be like the way to introduce you to the series, more so than starting on the second game, which I feel it's modeled in not a bad way, but like in a way that is not very like most people who play Katamari 1 would, that's like a way to introduce them, and the second one is like, and here's the expansion pack, here's the DLC, here's more of the same shit, but like way better and way nicer and way more stuff, and it's like that's the add-on. But it's definitely a game in and of its own right. It's just,
So what you're saying is it should not replace the first game.
it should not replace the first game. Like, people say the second one's the best one, and it is. But the first game is like the place to start.
Well, just because the first game has such that linear narrative experience of beating the game, it feels very satisfying, and it feels like it's more complete and constructed, whereas the second game is kind of random. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's all cool stuff. It just isn't.
I don't think they can see you. You gotta
I
lean
know
in.
they can. That's why it's funny.
He's eating greens.
Oh my god, he is eating his greens. Isn't that lettuce disgusting?
No, it's delicious. You've got to eat your greens.
No.
You've got to eat your greens.
You got to eat.
You got to eat. You got to eat your greens. I got a honeydew too. That's green.
I can't hold you up for much longer. He's sinking down. He's going down, boys. He's going down. Ow, fuck. Why is this here?
You're too close to the microphone. You're gonna make the green chewing noises. You're gonna make too many of them. No, stop it.
Okay, Katamari Damacy. My favorite character in Katamari Damacy is the guy who says, "Origami!"
Yeah, that guy's great.
That's from the 2. He's good.
He's good.
He's eating greens.
You got to eat. 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 You
Goodbye.
You've got to eat your greens. You've got to eat
your greens. All right. What was I saying?
I'm gay.
Damn it.
I don't remember.
My point about Katamari 1 and 2 is that 2 is wild and wacky and not the same. And it's like, there are parts in Katamari 2 which are just sort of like confusing and annoying. Not like, it's really just about the text. In the first game, you don't need to read anything to understand. There's one core game mechanic: make the ball bigger by rolling stuff up, and you have to be bigger than the thing to roll it up, otherwise it hits you and you may lose stuff. You gotta get big, and that's it. The second game, there's like lots of gimmicks between levels, and you have to actually listen to the people that you walk around and talk to in like the hub world. If you don't listen to them, you may not know what you're doing, and you can't like pause the level if you're like confused and check, because there's no pause screen information. So like some levels you need to do a very specific thing, and if you're not paying attention, you're not going to know what to do. Now that's fine. It's just that the game, a lot of the text is like not that interesting, and there's a lot of it, and it feels like I want to skip everything.
There's a lot of goofy text. I mean, in the first game, when we first started playing it, and unfortunately this is partially that we were playing this on a live stream. Like, when we first started, I told you, like, you should read all of the text that the king says, because it'll just be better than skipping it all. Because my biggest problem with Katamari Damacy when I was a kid was that I found the King of All Cosmos boring. And he goes on and on and on, and even when you're playing the game, he will just come in and interrupt and have text all the way across the screen, and that shit drove me crazy. Because you'll just sit there and you have to mash through just tons and tons of him talking. But if you read it, most of it is pretty funny. Like, I appreciate the humor of the game. I just wish there was just a button that just skipped all the text, or one that made it so, you know, at the very least, if you're mashing through it, you're not going to miss something important.
The real problem is that Katamari is like a video game gameplay, game mechanic wise, like extremely fun and great, and I want to roll the ball. I want to roll the ball so much. I want to roll that Katamari constantly, to the point where anything that is not letting me roll the ball is annoying, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, I know that seems like impatient, but that's just like, if the game was less fun, if it was an RPG, then the gameplay is just like looking at text and reading it anyway. This is like a really action-oriented thing, so anything that's stopping me from moving around is annoying. And I appreciate in the second game, at the beginning of a level, the King of All Cosmos comes up with his text as usual, but you can just move and interrupt him. So like, there's parts of stuff like that where you can skip around, but like,
I would definitely say the second game seemed like it did a lot of stuff where they looked at complaints or problems that people were having with the first game and reconsidered it. They tweaked the controls a little bit, I think you implied.
They tweaked at least of the very small Katamaris, they move a lot like smoother.
Yeah, and it felt as though with the first couple of levels that, at the very least, they had, in those small levels, built way more ramps. Like, the levels are focused in a way. In the first game, it was sometimes the clutter would make it so, let's say in that first level in the room, there's a lot of places you can kind of get trapped, or you'll get hit by things and spun around, and it's just very easy to sort of get stopped in your tracks. And back when I was a kid, I could never get the hang of Katamari, and I've talked to other people who, when the game came out, said they couldn't get the hang of it, and I think that a lot of that is just due to the level design having lots of impediment, whereas in the second game, they tried to even it out a lot more and make it smoother so that when you're small, you can still build up momentum and keep your ball rolling a bit easier. It's more speedrunner friendly, probably.
Yeah, there's the ability to just go up a ledge if you push hard enough in one direction for long enough. Before if you weren't big enough, you couldn't go up. But now, even if you aren't big enough, you can sort of like climb straight ledges and the cliffs, which is like, it's good. It's like it's getting rid of like as many road bumps in your way as possible,
right? But
without making it too easy. And obviously, the game isn't like extremely difficult. It's really just about mastering the controls. And once you can do that, you can do every level.
I have to wonder if with the first game they didn't anticipate that people would want to move as fast as they did. like that, because in the second game, I feel almost every level there's like the opportunity to non-stop move. Like you can usually just constantly be building your Katamari, whereas in the first game there's like a lot more trying to get down the street and like navigate your way between buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The first game, by nature of just being one level that you're going through over and over again, just doesn't have as many opportunities to present you with a wholly new challenge or a wholly new idea. Like the second game might have the Snowball Level, and that one's like, the way it's laid out is so different from a normal level because you're mostly just gathering snow.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just not quite the same, but some of those end up being like interruptions to the kind of gameplay you do want to have.
Yeah, there's like in the second game there's things like, well, for one thing, here's the thing. When I was just playing and not clicking on any text and just clicking by, I got a bit confused. But it really, you know, that I think is the level of confusion was my fault because I wasn't reading anything. I took like 1 second to just check what happens when you click on a person to start a level. And once you do the first version of the level, it's to get as big as you can in a certain amount of time. And the second version of the level is to get to a certain size with no timer. And it's like counting up. So like it's seeing how fast you can get to a certain size. So there's two different types of challenges. And but there's like other random ones that the real problem with it being like I don't know what's going on is that the people you talk to are very, very loosely connected to what the gimmick of the level is.
Yeah.
Some people you talk to, like you talk to an old lady or a sumo wrestler. I mean, the sumo wrestler is very easy to understand because it's like you're rolling that guy in the level, so you recognize him when you go back to the thing. But like, there's the old lady, there's the schoolgirl, there's the random guy. There's plenty of like.
To clarify, you're talking about that in this game. There's like a home screen.
Yeah, there's a home screen where you walk around and you talk to people. The idea of the game is like, we love Katamari. It is the fans want to the people in the game canonically play the game Katamari Damacy, and they love it, and they want you to build one for them in real life. So you go around and you do their requests, but some of the requests are like, I want you to make a small one with as few items as possible, like a certain amount of size with as few items as possible, or I want you to find the biggest bear you can find, and if you find a really tiny bear, then the level just ends. Yeah. And that means you have to avoid hitting things that you maybe they're so small you can't see, and it's kind of annoying. But there's quite a few of these people. And I can't remember what level gimmicks apply to what people a lot of the time, because, I mean, they're just sort of nondescript. You need to pay it a lot of attention if you're like, okay, that's that level. I don't want to do that one again because that sucked. Yeah. Like, there's a few that are just not fun to play.
Yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't help that it took a little while to catch on to the fact that you were going to have to revisit people, and also that they don't appear in like a set order. Like, if they were appearing one by one left to right, you would know, okay, that guy was level 1, that guy's level 2, but it's just like a bunch of people across different screens, and it gets very confusing when you're trying to navigate back to... Not that the game is so long that this is like a major problem or anything, but it was just a bit of... a roadblock that didn't exist in the first game, and if they were going to add on this extra feature, maybe a little bit more needed to be done to make it function cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, really, I say that like people should start with the first game, and I do still stand by that. Is like if you want Katamari Damacy, that's the experience, but everything else in the second game is, like I said, DLC. Some DLC on some games is like, oh cool, that's like an expansion of the things I know and love, and then other things are like, you know, The Sims fucking go to hell or something, where like all these weird things that I'm like, I don't really know what this has to do with like the appeal of Katamari, because like trying to avoid things in Katamari is really like antithetical to like the fun aspect of just rolling shit up and snowballing. And even the snowman level, which is about snowballing, is kind of weird because there's no rules about how big the snowman head has to be.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they are asking of me every time.
Yeah, that was a weird level. Sometimes the concept's a little lost, or sometimes it takes a while to understand it, but once you do, you think it's clever. Like the level, there's one where you have to roll up a fireball, and you have to consume things that are flammable and avoid things that are like put out fire, and if you fall in water you're fucked. And I think this is like, I really love the idea of that gimmick, but it does lead to a lot of frustration when, you know, Katamari doesn't have precision controls. So if you overshoot a little bit, you might fall in the water, and then you have to go through the incredibly long death sequence and restarting of a level that happens every time.
Yeah.
Again, not that this game is so long that this is like a major problem, but it can be a little aggravating when you're like a minute into rolling shit up and you accidentally like slip and fall in the water, and then you have to dodge lasers from the King of All Cosmos shooting at you for like minutes on end.
I mean, I don't mind that. You can skip past all of this text quite quickly with that. But I think the thing that is like notable about the comparison between these two is the most fun level that I'm sure most people would agree with is the bird and elephant levels, which is basically get us from as small to as big as possible. Which like, you know, you talk to that guy like 3 times, and each time you start bigger and you get even bigger, and you're rolling up. You know, you're rolling up people at the start, and then you're ending up rolling up like continents and volcanoes and giants and clouds and tornadoes and things. And that is what everybody loves about Katamari, I'm sure, is going from such a small thing, rolling and rolling and rolling and getting bigger and bigger and faster, getting bigger faster and faster, and it's like the feeling of the word snowball, like as an experience. And that is fucking sick, but that is just the first game. Like, that's the pinnacle of the first game is that level as an entire game. And if the best thing about Katamari 2, to me, is basically the one that is most like the first game, it feels like all the other ones that are sort of gimmicky are sort of... They miss the point of the fun of Katamari, despite being great, and I like the gimmicks, and they're cool, and I don't mind them, and I'm not saying the second one is bad. But when I think about it critically, they're both, like, important to play. Like, you shouldn't start with the second one. Because, I don't know, I feel like people get the impression that you should.
Yeah, I had that impression, kind of, just from the fact that people kept insisting that it's like, it's basically the first game, but better. And in a lot of ways it is, except that, yeah, like you said, you're not getting that same... You really need both components to get that full feeling, you know, that full warmth. I think if you played the second one first, you might not appreciate why the first one was a cult classic, in a way. Because while all the, you know, all of the aesthetic and the music and everything is there, and, like, the basics, and even the gameplay is better, but, like, that first one has that spark of, like, this was a new idea, and we just, like, it was more about creating just this core mechanic and making it work and making it fun. And then the second game is just like, whatever, what else can we do with a Katamari? Like, let's throw some ideas at a board and see what can be done with it. And a lot of those ideas are fun, and I'm glad they explored them. And I do think that we are living in a better world having all those Katamari gimmicks that you can play. But it doesn't, you know, change the fact that the first game was like a tightly constructed experience that is only about 4.5 hours long, and you can play through the whole fucking game in one sitting, so you might as well.
Might as well. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good. I think it's what I said. But here's what's great about the second game is the funny little guys, the funny little friends you can have.
Oh yeah.
The cousins.
The cousins.
The cousins you can pick up.
They are awesome.
They are adorable, and I love them, and I love having them. Like, the first game had customizability. Like, if you get perfect in a level or whatever, you would be given a hat or a present that you could wear on your guy. In the second game, they also have that, but you also can, like, find funny-looking versions of, like, little people, little princes, cousins or whatever they're called. Well, I don't know what they're called, like, as a species.
I think they're called just your cousins.
Well, yeah, as a species, though, because they rule things.
I have no idea. I mean, they're
like kings.
Yeah, I guess they're all princes.
Well, like, they're adorable, and I love the tennis ball guy, and I love the behold. I like the tall man. Yeah. They're cool, and fucking I love the school level. I love picking up cranes in the school. I love the school just for the fact that once you're a certain size, you go into a classroom, you can pick up everything in like 1 second, and then smash through the wall of that classroom into the next one, and it's like, like some of the level design is like incredible in the second game. The first game is like the concept is great, but the level is like I've seen it before. You know, you see that same bedroom like 4, 5, 6 times.
Right. And I mean, for what it's worth, though, a lot of what the fun is of the first game is when you go back to the level and things are different now. Where like in round 3, I think the third mission is to create cancer. And by which it means the constellation Cancer.
Oh, yeah.
It's a level full of crabs. So, like, you go to the same house you've been to, but you're in a different part of it, and now there's crabs everywhere. And the game has lots of really creative interpretations of, like, what objects should be doing or their properties. For instance, underneath the floorboards, there's a bunch of spider webs, and there's crabs crawling on the spider webs, as crabs are arachnids. So it's just like a weird visual pun, I guess, is how I'd put it. They just figured out, like, everything they conceivably could have crabs doing in this level that would make any sense, at least on a linguistic level, if they were doing it. And it's so much fun to just see all these clever little things and be like, oh, look at that one, or like, what's that guy doing over there? Or in the second game, when you get so big that you're rolling up continents, by far the funniest part is that there are things that are so big you can't perceive them until you are big. For instance, like right offshore of the islands that you've been playing the game on are these gigantic dudes just walking around, just like hundreds of feet tall, or even thousands of feet tall guys, like towering over entire islands, and you just don't even know they exist until you get big enough. And then when you first see them, like when you first perceive them, you're like up to their knees. And a couple minutes later, you will be swallowing those guys. And you'll be seeing an even bigger thing. And like, you know, it's just, they accounted for no matter how big you get in these levels, there will be something there that is bigger than you. Unless you are like perfect and you get everything.
Yeah. And I mean, even the planets. There's this one level in the second game where you're scooping up all the planets you make. In order to roll up the sun, which is the end of the game. Now, I feel like when I beat the game in that way, it was like the boring ending. Like, there wasn't much to it. Because I rolled up the sun after beating enough levels, and then there was the credits. And that was really basically it. And I liked that. I liked how it looked, and I liked the fact that there was the running throughout the game, the chapters of the king's like growing up and how he became the way he is. I don't see the point really, but it's just cool to see because those animations are really nice. But the I feel like that ending was really anticlimactic, and I feel like I needed to like 100% it. I don't mind a secret cool ending for like 100% completing the game or completing it more thoroughly. I just feel like the baseline should be satisfying anyway. Yeah. And it wasn't really.
I mean, I really like the idea that the final level is accessible at any time. It's just a matter of, are you ready? Because, like, at any point in the game, you can just go into space, roll up all the planets you've made, and try to take out the sun. But if you are not big enough, the sun will just burn you to a crisp. And it's an interesting sort of gamble. It's like, am I going to take the risk? Am I going to go through all these dialogue screens and load up this level and roll up all these planets and make an attempt? And, you know, you see yourself fail and you go, okay, well, how big did it look like I need to get now? Like, how many more levels do I think I need to beat, you know?
The thing about that is just sort of, it's less about, like the game itself is not like rolling a Katamari. Like, rolling a Katamari, you start small and you accelerate until you're
saying it doesn't have the Gesamtkunstwerk properties of the first game.
Yeah, it doesn't have that, like... The thematic thing is, like, at some point in the second game, I feel like I'm just going through the motions of retrying levels to get a better score in order to maybe get the sun. And I feel like I should be going from level to level, completing them, and when I complete them, I can try the next one until I get to the one with the dog, at which point, it's not about can I do it with all my accolades, it's I can do it, and this is the level, and you got to do it within a certain time. Like, I would prefer that as, like, as a thing. I mean, I'm sure other Katamari games in the future have probably like expanded on this, and like you can roll up galaxies and universes. And
I
stuff.
don't know. I've heard that a lot of the the future ones don't really expand on it that much. But
that is a shame.
Because the reason I called this a duology is simply that these are the two Katamari games that seem to get talked about the most. I think that because the series went to the PSP, while it was like all the PSP owners I knew had Katamari, but I didn't know that many PSP owners, and I think that they kind of kneecapped the series that way. I think Sony did that with a lot of their fucking IPs when the PSP came out, because Ratchet and Clank I stopped playing for the same reason.
Yeah.
Start releasing shit on a console I don't know, and I'm like, well, now I don't know the story, or now I can't, like, I don't feel like I've completed it all. And they finally released a PS3 game that just, I think, underperformed, I guess, and I think people just kind of lost their interest in Katamari when they weren't making it, like, exceptionally new or better than what it had been before. But I mean, maybe there's just not enough that could be done with this concept to really evolve beyond these two games. Like,
I mean, I really feel like it should be like, if there was Katamari 3 and it was perfect, it would be like, get rid of like some of the boring gimmicks from the second game and take the good gimmicks and just have more levels where it gets more and more ridiculous, and have more locations. That was all you would need for a Katamari sequel.
I think the best way to do it would just be to have like all over the world levels. Like, just let me roll up a city in every country. I just want to be able to roll up like the unique, like, most of what you roll is in Japan in these games, and when you get to other places, it's usually when you are much larger. Like, if you leave the basic, especially in the first game, like, by the time you leave the basic Japanese town you're in, you are gigantic. It would be nice if you could start small in an American household, or in a fucking European household or something. Just maybe a Katamari World would have been a good idea, just because a lot of the fun of the first game was seeing all the daily life of like Japanese person minutia that you're scooping up at the start. Like, you start off in a bedroom and there's a human just sitting under a kotatsu, and there's just like all the random crap that would just be in some Japanese kid's room, and but then also lots of weird funny stuff that it's hilarious that it's in his room. But you could do that same joke with other places. Obviously the designers won't know as much about those places, but they could tour the world and research. I just think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind it even if it was just like what the Japanese people think of America or England or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But
it'd be hilarious if you're like in a English household, just like scooping fish and chips out of bowls or whatever everywhere, and like, what's some generic small thing that would be all over a British household?
The Queen.
Oh boy, yeah.
Stamps with the Queen on it. Red telephone boxes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bulldogs.
So, did you find yourself at the end of these two games, like, feeling as though you wanted another Katamari game? Like, this wasn't enough? Granted, you only played these for the first time now. I'm sure for other people who played these 15 years ago, they might want more.
I want to play them again. Unfortunately, what's really annoying is the first game isn't available outside of America or Japan.
Right.
So I can't get that. I might play it again here, but I don't know. But, I'll definitely pick up We Love Katamari and play that like more seriously and try and actually complete it completely, just to see if there was something that I missed from being like playing it for the first time and not noticing something. Because I'm sure like I'm definitely not like an authority. This is like what I feel after experiencing this thing that I haven't experienced before for the first time.
It's interesting for me because I, in spite of having not really played the games myself, have been very aware of them over the years, just because they were talked about a lot in gaming press when they came out for being so weird and different, and I think that's why there was enough hype to get a second and third and fourth game made. Once that hype cycle died down, because people were just frankly used to Katamari Damacy, it wasn't a crazy thing from Japan that we can put on G4 all day. G4 doesn't even exist anymore by this point, So, I think that faltering in marketing and in relevance and in having like an amazing sequel made it kind of fall off the map, which is unfortunate because it is such a cult beloved series, and the people who love it have not stopped talking about it and playing it and sharing it. And I keep seeing it over the years and hearing people be like, this is my favorite game. And so I think it's a real shame if something like this series is quiet now just because not enough people are paying attention to it or talking about it, I don't know if that's really why, though. It could just be that they ran out of ideas. I haven't researched if anybody has said why.
Yeah. Unrelated to that, I wanted to mention that while we were playing this, I had the feeling that these games would not have like made it today with the advent of like digitally distributed indie games, because they are very much like wacky indie game sort of things, and that they have like they have a weird niche appeal, but the only way that they could have been made and published is if they were taken in by a studio and made a big thing.
Oh yeah.
So like nowadays, a thing like this, which like there probably is like a Katamari-esque like spiritual sequel that is exactly what we want.
I've never heard of that.
But
I've never seen an indie game try to do Katamari before.
I would love to see that, but like nowadays, that sort of game, if Katamari came out, it would be an indie game that you could get for $5 on the store.
And it would be super unpolished and have no personality.
I know, but like no, even if it was exactly perfect, like exactly what we wanted, it would be distributed less and promoted less, just for the fact that once it's out and it's able to make money, there's less of an incentive for it to push or be pushed to like a high production budget place.
Right.
So like a game like this could not become a AAA game now that digital distribution is like
this is the epitome, and I mean Namco are great for this, but they're the epitome of making like the AA game. The game that's like, this is not cutting edge graphics, this is not going to push your system, but it will be totally unique and super interesting for the people who like it, much like Dark Souls, for the PS3 era, or Demon Souls. And I think these days there's not a whole lot of that style of game. Like that is the most diminished type of game in the modern age, is like when a big publisher publishes something that is not giant. And we still have some of it, but even those are like treated like we'll get something like Song of the Deep from Insomniac, and it's like, that is just an indie game that has Insomniac's name on it. Like, this is a proper this is a full-blown console game. It's just not pushing the limits of everything, and not every game has to do that. But it's unfortunate that I feel these days people tend to look at everything as like, it either has to be the biggest, baddest thing in the world that will consume all of my time, or like a small curiosity that I can charge through in a couple days, And even the really amazing indie games, like something like Hollow Knight that people really love, you have to look at it and go like, why didn't Namco make this? They could have made it even more, but now well.
It seems a little sad, but at least these games exist still, so you can have them. I enjoyed my time with both of them. I think they're great. I love them. They're cute. They're beautiful, and you should play them. And they're the best game of all time.
Yeah, I want to ask how would you rate these the experience of Katamari? Would you say these have become some of your favorite games, or anything to that? How much fun did you have?
I had a lot of fun. Favorite games, well, it's weird. I know that if I played this when I was a kid, I'd be talking about it like all the time, like, dude, it's my fucking favorite game, you should totally play that.
Yeah.
And I feel like as an adult, I do feel the same. It's just a less. There's no.
It's not intense.
It's not as. It doesn't have that childhood intensity. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't gush about this, but I do really much recommend it, and like I love it, and I guess it's just sort of a different way of like appreciating things. Yeah. Like it doesn't come from a nostalgia place. It just comes from like a yes, this is good.
Yeah, place. I am a seasoned veteran of recognizing good things, and let me tell you, buddy, this is one of those. Well, that's all I've got to say about Katamari.
Yep. That's all I got to say about Katamari, and I'm a Game Boy.
I'm a Game Boy too.
We're the Game Boys, and here we are behind the things. Hope you like this avant-garde, changing the focal distance of the thing. Put my thumb in there. There we go.
Yeah, Game Boy.
Yeah, thumb war.
You want to thumb war me, dog?
I'll thumb you away. Oh no, you got fucking nails. No. Ouch. Alright, now I hate Katamari. Fuck you.